Alright, boys and girls, today we're going to be working with the letter L. If you'll notice on your paper, the one starts here on the dash line and shows the arrow sweeping forward towards the right, going up to the top line, coming down to the baseline. We come back to the left, loop up, and then come down. And notice that tail actually goes below that baseline there. Okay? So we've got to make sure that that's what we're doing today when we draw the letter L. So if you will, take your highlighter, start at the number 1 at the dash line. We're going to follow that line up to the top line, follow it down to the baseline, go to the left, up, and then we're going to make that tail just slightly below the baseline. Not very far, but just a little. So again, we're going to trace our next letter here. This is the size that we'll be making. So again, we'll need to be very careful as we start out. We start kind of slowly, sweeping up to the top, make that loop, come down, sweep back to the left, loop. And as we come forward with the front of the L, we're going to actually dip a little bit below that baseline. Alright, let's try it again. We're going forward, up to the top line. We're going to loop back to that side and then dip below that baseline just a little to make the L. Okay, we need to get a few more on here on this line. Okay, so again, this is a real, I guess what we would call a wavy sort of letter here. Lots of curls and curves in this particular letter. It's kind of different that this one just slightly dips below that baseline. Most letters don't dip below that line unless they have a full tail like a Y, a G, a J. Those dip below the line, especially lowercase. Not too many uppercase letters will dip below there, especially like this. Okay, so again we're going to trace that next L here with our highlighter to make sure we're still going the right direction and following the same movements that we should. Okay, and then the next L. And again, we're just going to get that practice with those letters. Just take your time, draw them slowly in order to get them to fit. And make sure you get them as close as you can to the example you were given that you traced with your highlighter. Just take your time. Follow in those loops, create those letters. Nice and neat. Leave some space in between the letters. Let's not jam them up on the lines. Notice I'm leaving plenty of space in between and still leaves me plenty of room to get a good bit of practice on here. Alright, let me trace this last one. Alright, now we're going to be starting with some words down here, especially with the uppercase L. I have Lester, Leah, Lori, Lazarus, and Leah. Don't really see that name that much. Okay, so L, est, Lester. Lester. That's kind of an older style name. Don't really see or hear that name much these days. But you may. You never know. It may become popular one day. Again, L, E, S, T, Er. Okay, again, be thinking about those sounds and sounding out these letters as you write them. That helps you with spelling. Not just now, but even later when you're writing. Okay, here's Leah. Some people may even call this Lee, because EA can make the E sound. But that's why with names it is a little tricky on the sounds. So that's why this could be Lee, it could be Leah. You gotta squeeze that in there. They didn't leave us much room to write that one. Lori. L, or. What's making that or sound in that word? O-R. R says or. Again, pay attention to those phonograms. Think about what makes these sounds in these words. That'll help you later on as you're spelling really big words. When you need to make an OR sound, hopefully you'll remember that should be an OR. Okay, here's Lazarus. That's kind of long, and notice it has a Z in it. So here's our L. Okay, remember our A starts at 2 o'clock, goes around. Now that Z goes up to the dash line, we dip down to the baseline, and then tuck underneath it for that tail. Then up to 2 o'clock, back around for the A, R, U, S. Lazarus. Lazarus. Okay, so L, A. Notice that loop there, and then we go ahead and tuck it underneath for the tail, up to 2 o'clock for that A. Us. All right, and be asking yourself questions. Is this Lazarus, Lazarus, or Lazarus, Lazarus? Which one sounds right to you? I'm going to play around with those sounds a little bit in order to see that you can actually hear those sounds, because some of you are having a hard time with that. And if you'll practice checking it, even when we're doing simple activities like this writing here, just doing our cursive, is a great time to be thinking about those sounds as you're sounding them out and writing those words. It learns those letters and sounds. Okay, now real quickly I'll show you the lowercase L. It's going to start on the base line. Notice the 1. It's going to go up to the top line, loop back around, come down to the base line, and then come up to the dash line. Now we've had plenty of practice with this before, and when we're working with words, we've done this L several times. I'm almost willing to bet you're going to find an easy time of making these L's today. Remember, it's that tall loop. Remember, we did the E, and it was the short loop that sat below that dash line. And the L is the tall loop that goes all the way up to the top line. So again, hopefully this one will be real easy, especially after all those words that we've done that had L's in them. I think I'm going to squeeze one more in here. Take my highlighter, trace that last one, trace my next one. Okay, I'm going to let you finish this up. You have lilies, still, called, and labeled. Labeled. Oh, labeled is what that should be, not labeled. Okay, so again, make sure you're noticing those. If you're looking at the sentences today, it says Lake Charles is in Louisiana. That's a state, and that's the name of the lake. They actually call their lake Lake Charles in Louisiana. And then Lionel likes lemon lollipops. That sounds good. So again, get that practice today with your L. Whatever you don't finish today, you can finish tomorrow.